Welcome back to the deep dive, where we dig into complex sources to bring you essential practical knowledge.
And today we are really getting into the weeds. We're talking about fiber optic testing.
Specifically, that indispensable tool, the OTDR, the Optical Time Domain Reflectometer.
Right.
If you've ever had to troubleshoot a fiber network, you know the pressure is just immense. Every mistake costs money.
So much money.
Yeah.
And we found this image in the source material that I just love. It said that a bad OTDR trace looks like a drunk spider walked across the screen.
It's perfect because that's exactly what it is. It's just a mess of useless data.
And that mess is almost always because a technician made a really simple mistake before they even hit the run button.
Yeah, the OTDR is supposed to be the ultimate truth teller, right? It shows you everything happening inside that glass.
It can be.
Yeah.
But if you use it wrong, you don't get truth. You just get garbage. And you burn hours chasing problems that aren't even there.
So that's our mission for this deep dive. We've pulled together the crucial do's and don'ts that separate the pros from, well, the rookies.
This is the stuff that stops you from making those common but totally critical mistakes.
And we're going to start with maybe the biggest physical trap of them all.
Near-end blindness.
Okay, let's unpack this. The number one don't we found is testing without a launch cable. I mean, I've seen people do this. They just plug the OTDR right into the panel.
And when you do that, you are just murdering your accuracy. I mean, completely.
Why? What's actually happening inside the machine?
Every OTDR has what's called a dead zone.
Yeah.
The initial pulse of light is so powerful that it temporarily blinds the machine's detector. It's just overloaded.
So it can't see anything for a little bit?
It can't distinguish anything, no reflections, no loss, nothing. And their problem is that blind spot is right where your first and often most important connector is.
But that's where everything goes wrong, at the patch panel.
Exactly. So if you plug in directly, you are guaranteed to miss a bad splice, a dirty connector, even a total break inside the first, say, 50 to 200 meters.
You're completely blind to it.
Totally blind. So you need a buffer. That launch cable, it's just a long spool of fiber that acts as a buffer. It moves the dead zone onto the launch cable itself. So by the time the pulse hits your actual network, the OTDR can see perfectly.
Okay, so the fix is basically non-negotiable. Always use the launch reel. What are the specs for that?
For single-mode fiber, the documentation is really clear. You need a minimum of 300 to 500 meters.
That much.
That much. It guarantees you get a clean reading of that first critical connection. And for proper end-to-end certification, you also need a receive reel on the far end.
So you can see the very last connector clearly.
Right. The launch cable fixes the start, the receive cable fixes the end. Simple as that.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Now let's stick with physical mistakes. Don't number 5.
Yeah.
Ignoring connector cleanliness. This one, I mean, the stories we found were just shocking.
They are, because it seems so basic.
Yeah.
People wipe a connector on their t-shirt and think it's clean.
And it's not.
It is so not clean. I mean, that anecdote we found about the tech who created a 3dB event 12 kilometers down the line.
Yeah.
The cause, after weeks of searching, turned out to be a tiny thumbprint on the connector back in the lab.
A thumbprint? That's enough to fail an entire system acceptance test.
Oh, easily. A single speck of dust, something you absolutely cannot see with your naked eye, it creates a massive reflectance spike. The OTDR sees it as a fake event, maybe 0.5 to 2 dB of loss that isn't actually there.
You're literally creating ghosts in the machine.
You are. So the process, the only professional process, is 3 steps. Inspect, clean, and then inspect again.
You have to look at it with a scope after you clean it.
Every single time. If you just use one of those one-click cleaners without looking, you might just be jamming the dirt in deeper. A scope and a good cleaner are not optional. They're mandatory.
Inspect, clean, inspect. I like that. It's a mantra.
It has to be.
So, okay. Our physical setup is perfect. We've got our launch reel, our connectors are pristine, but we can still get garbage data.
Yeah. You absolutely can, because now you have to deal with the settings inside the OTDR's brain.
Which brings us to don't number 2, using the factory default settings.
This is where the machine starts to, it starts to lie to you, or at least it gives you data that's completely irrelevant to the cable you're testing. Things like pulse width, wavelength, range. You have to set them manually.
Let's talk about pulse width. That one seems to be the most critical trade-off.
It is. It's all about distance versus detail. Think of it like a camera lens. A really short pulse, say 5 to 20 nanoseconds, is like a macro lens. It gives you incredible detail up close. You can see 2 splices that are only a few meters apart.
But the downside?
It runs out of power. That short pulse doesn't have enough energy to travel, 100 kilometers. The
Re-
trace just gets noisy and fades away.
So for a long-haul cable, you need a longer pulse.
A much longer pulse, maybe 100, even 1,000 nanoseconds. That's your telephoto lens. It injects a ton of energy to go the distance.
But you lose all that fine detail.
You lose it completely. That long pulse will just wash over two closely spaced events and show them as one big blurry mess. So you have to match the pulse to the job.
Right. Short for patch cords, long for long haul.
Exactly.
Now, for what you called the big aha moment, DO number 1, which is setting the correct index of refraction, or IOR. This one catches people out.
It catches so many experienced people. The IOR is the value that tells the OTDR how fast light travels in that specific type of glass. It's the calibration factor for distance.
And the default setting is just an average.
It's just a generic average. If you use it, your distance measurements on a long run will be off by hundreds of meters.
Wait, say that again? Hundreds of meters.
Hundreds. I mean, think about it. You find a break. The OTDR says it's at the 18-kilometer mark. You send a crew out with a backhoe.
And they start digging.
They spend a day and thousands of dollars digging. But because your IOR was wrong, the break is actually at 17.5 kilometers. You just dug a very expensive hole in the wrong place.
That's a catastrophic error based on one tiny software setting.
It is. The professional move is you always get the IOR from the cable manufacturer's spec sheet. Never, ever trust the default.
Wow. Okay, that really drives the point home. Let's shift gears now to safety. This is a big one. Don't number 3, testing live systems.
This cannot be overstated. With active systems, especially the big DWDM ones, you might have 30 DGRM of amplified light in that fiber. That's a lot of power.
And if you plug your OTDR into that...
You can instantly fry the receiver card on the other end. That is a very, very expensive mistake. But worse than that,
Worse.
you could blind yourself. If you look into that fiber end face, you won't see anything. But that invisible amplified light can cause permanent eye damage. The rule is simple. Assume every fiber is live until you prove it's not.
So what if you have to test a line that might be active? What's the protocol?
The only safe way is with a specialized filtered OTDR that tests at an out-of-band wavelength like 1625 or 1650 nanometers.
So it's testing on a color of light that the live traffic isn't using.
Exactly. And the filter protects the OTDR from the incoming traffic.
Yeah.
But honestly, the best advice is just don't do it unless you're absolutely certain your procedures and your equipment are certified for live testing.
That's a sobering warning. Okay, assuming the fiber is dark and safe, let's talk about interpretation traps. Don't number 4, trusting a single direction trace.
Right. I see this all the time. A tech shoots from one end, it passes, they back up and leave.
And that's not good enough.
It's not the real story because
Why?
fiber can be, well, asymmetric. You can shoot from end A to B and see a tiny, perfect 0.2 dB splice loss.
Looks great.
Then you go to NB, you shoot back to A, and suddenly that same splice reads as a 1.2 dB loss, a massive failure.
How is that possible? It's the same physical splice.
It's due to differences in backscatter. If you splice two slightly different types of fiber together, one might scatter more light back to the OTDR than the other. The machine misinterprets that change in light, scatters a huge loss event, even if the splice is perfect.
So the reading is an artifact of the glass, not the quality of the work.
Precisely. To get the true, actual loss, you have to shoot from both directions, A to B and B to A, and then you average the two results. That's the only way to get the real number.
That brings us to the other artifacts. Don't number 6, misreading ghosts and gainers? I mean, a gainer? That sounds like you've created energy from nothing.
Right, a negative loss. And it's not magic, unfortunately. It's the same backscatter issue, just in reverse. If the second fiber scatters more light back than the first, the OTDR sees a jump in power and thinks you've gained signal. It's just a measurement error.
An illusion.
A total illusion. And ghosts are too. They're just echoes.
So how do you spot a ghost? How do you know not to send a crew to dig it up?
Pattern recognition. Ghosts are caused by a big reflective event, like a dirty connector. And they always appear at perfect multiples of the distance to the real event.
So if I have a real reflection at 5 kilometers and then a weird spike at 10K and another at 15K.
Those are your ghosts. It's one real problem causing multiple echoes. Don't panic. Clean the real connector and the ghost will disappear.
That clarity alone is worth its weight in gold. Okay, let's wrap this up with the essential DOs, the things that make a certification report rock solid. DO number 4. Test at a minimum of 2 wavelengths.
Using only one wavelength is like getting half the story. Different wavelengths are sensitive to different problems.
Like what?
Well, 1310 nanometers is really good at detecting macro bends. 15 physical stress on the cable, like a tight corner in a conduit.
And 1550.
1550 nanometers is less sensitive to bends, but it's where you measure the fiber's true loss. It's usually the wavelength that the actual data traffic runs on. You need both to get a complete health check.
Got it. Okay, now for the less exciting but critical steps. DOs 2 and 3, timing and thresholds. This is about patience.
It really is. You can't just run a 5-second test and call it a day. The trace will be too noisy.
And that noise comes from?
Just the natural physics of the glass. It's called Rayleigh scattering. To get a clean signal that rises above that noise, you have to average the measurement over time.
How much time?
For a quick check, maybe 15 seconds is fine. But for a certification report, you need to let it run for 60 to 180 seconds. It takes patience, but it smooths out the noise so you can see every small, real event.
And what about thresholds? Setting up the pass-fail limits.
You need to be smart about it. For a splice, which should have very low loss, you set the threshold loosely, maybe 0.1 dB. That way it doesn't flag every tiny little wiggle.
But for connectors?
For connectors or reflective events, you set it very tight, maybe might have a 40 or negative 50 dB. You want it to flag any unexpected reflection, because that almost always means there's a dirty end face that needs to be cleaned.
Right, that makes sense. Finally, let's talk documentation. This is where DO number 7, saving files with default names, meets DO number 5, proper labeling.
Oh, please, if you take away one thing, do this. 6 months from now, a file named trace001.sol means nothing to anyone.
It's useless.
Completely. A professional file name has a structure: project name, location, fiber number, direction, wavelength, date, everything you need.
And it's more than just the file name, right?
Much more. A real pro provides a full PDF report. They include screenshots. And they make notes on the launch cable length and, correctly, the IOR value they used.
So it's a complete verifiable audit trail.
It's proof. It proves you did the job right, and anyone can replicate your test later and get the same result. It turns your work from an opinion into a certified fact.
So bringing this all together, from the launch reels to the IOR to the documentation, what's the final truth here? What separates the best from the rest?
You know, what's really fascinating is that it's not about who has the most expensive machine. It doesn't matter if it's an Exvo, a Viavi, whatever.
It's not the gear.
It's never the gear.
Yeah.
The best results, the most reliable certifications, they come from the technicians who treat the process with incredible rigor. They understand that cleaning, configuring, and testing from both ends is what matters.
So accuracy and happy clients, they come from following these do's and don'ts, not from buying a fancier box.
It's exactly right. We started out by talking about how a bad OTDR trace is garbage. The advice we want to leave you with is this: treat every single test like it's a piece of evidence, like it's going into a certification report that might one day end up in court.
That's a powerful way to frame it.
And it leads to our final thought for you. In fiber testing, using the wrong IOR value can make your distance measurement useless. Forgetting to test bidirectionally gives you a fundamentally false result. So the question is this: what is the IOR equivalent in your own field? What's that one seemingly small technical setting or procedural step that, if you get it wrong, doesn't just create a small error, but completely invalidates your entire result?